How does a team built on defensive bedrock just 1 year ago suffer a complete 3-0 humiliation?
Estevao making Kabasi's life difficult. Still Estevao!
Barcelona's collapse against Chelsea wasn't just a bad result, it was a tactical exposure.
Yeah, Barca can be more exciting going forward, but defensively, again, and we've said it time and time again, they had great success last year domestically, taking all these chances, but they're taking more chances this year defensively. They're squeezing the line in a very poor manner, they're squeezing at the wrong time, and almost every team they play, apart from Athletic Club at the weekend, are causing them problems.
Last season, Hansi Flick's side was a defensive machine. Against Chelsea, they were slow, disjointed, and their high line was breached time and time again.
They didn't adjust, but Craig's absolutely right. We've talked about their defensive, how poor they are defensively, and so nothing surprises you what we saw tonight. What did surprise me, when they were 11 versus 11, they didn't really create anything. They didn't dominate the game. The midfield players, Frankie de Jong usually controls the pace of the game. He couldn't do that.
We're going to break down the specific moments where the system failed and ask the question on everyone's mind. Is this a temporary blip? Or is the entire Flick philosophy fundamentally broken at the elite level? To understand how it all went so wrong at Stamford Bridge, you have to look back at what made Barcelona so successful just a season ago. Their La Liga title was built on an almost impenetrable defense. They conceded a stunningly low number of goals and established a clear identity around defensive organization and collective discipline. The back four moved as a unit, protected by a relentless midfield press that suffocated opponents before they could even think about attacking. For 90 minutes, they were a cohesive block that gave away very little space and even fewer clear-cut chances. This defensive solidity wasn't just a feature of their play, it was the foundation of their entire project. But this season, even during their domestic victories, that foundation began to show hairline fractures. The warning signs were there for anyone paying close attention. Take their league match against Celta Vigo, for example. Barcelona were in control, yet a very simple passage of play nearly unraveled them. Celta Vigo executed a quick switch of play from one side of the pitch to the other, followed immediately by a direct ball in behind the high defensive line. Suddenly, a forward was racing clear with Barcelona's defenders, scrambling to turn and recover. They were exposed by a single pass, a scenario that was becoming alarmingly frequent. This wasn't an isolated incident. Opponents across La Liga started to change their approach. Instead of trying to patiently build through Barcelona's midfield, teams began looking for a more direct route. The strategy became clear: bypass the press entirely by going over it. Coaches instructed their players to hit big diagonal balls to the flanks and play immediate, first-time passes into the channels.
You would think that a lot of coaches in Spain, a lot of coaches around Europe are thinking, how are we going to attack this team? How are we going to attack this high line? And so I think teams are getting caught out a little bit less. There's more second runs to break the offside trap rather than first runs to make the offside trap. And so I think you're seeing a little bit more in terms of expected goals conceded and in terms of goals conceded. In La Liga so far this season,
this tactic was designed specifically to exploit the large amount of space Hansi Flick's system leaves behind its back line. Analysts noted the increasing predictability with one observing: they're squeezing the line in a very poor manner. They're squeezing at the wrong time. For a while, these defensive issues were masked by results. In many La Liga games, Barcelona's superior attacking talent was enough to secure the 3 points, scoring enough goals to make up for the occasional lapse at the back. The team's pressing, however, grew less coordinated. The intense, unified pressure from last season was replaced by a disjointed effort that left the back four dangerously exposed. Without the reliable cover from the midfield, the defenders were often left in one-on-one situations they were never supposed to face. The blueprint to dismantle Barcelona was being tested and proven effective week after week in their own league. This growing vulnerability, it was creating the perfect conditions for a well-prepared opponent to turn the cracks into a complete collapse.
You cannot play in the Champions League with that high line. I'm sorry. When you play against good teams, you're going to get exposed, and that's exactly what happened tonight. Any run, well-timed run, You go through on goal. Every single time we mentioned it, they don't want to change it. And I understand sometimes coaches can be stubborn with how they go with the game, but it can be costly in big games.
Where other teams had found small openings, Enzo Maresca designed a plan to blow the doors wide open. As Chelsea lined up, their formation looked conventional, but the instructions given to the players were anything but. Maresca's tactical approach was centered on a few precise, devastating ideas. First, he instructed his team to completely overload the midfield. Players like Enzo Fernandez and Reece James aggressively pressed the exact channels where Barcelona liked to initiate their build-up play. This prevented playmakers such as Frenkie de Jong from finding any sort of tempo, forcing them into uncomfortable situations and completely disrupting their passing rhythm before it could even begin.
Barcelona is a team that if they have the ball, they feel comfortable. If they don't have the ball, they don't feel comfortable. So we try to keep the ball in the same way we are trying all season, last season.
With no control in the middle of the park, Barcelona's system was already starting to choke. The second part of the plan was to harness pure pace. Maresca used his forwards, particularly the younger winger, Estevao, to attack the space behind Barcelona's high defensive line from the opening minute.
Garnacho, I know what one of your strengths is to do, and we're just going to get the ball high and wide, just keep running at them. Estevao, high and wide, keep running in behind. And Pedro Neto is one of the most direct footballers in Europe. He doesn't always have the end product, but if there's a game plan that's this is where Enzo Maresca really earned his coin, because he just knew exactly what to do against that type of team.
These weren't just hopeful sprints, they were intelligent, well-timed diagonal runs designed to drag defenders out of position. The Chelsea midfield was under strict orders to not let Barcelona settle.
The one problem was that too many balls, so easy balls. It was not like they press us and then we lose it. No, it's like we make a easy pass and we lose the ball.
Instead of taking extra touches, they played immediate first-time balls into that exposed space. Barcelona's back four were forced to do one thing a high line hates: turn and chase. They were constantly reacting to the play rather than anticipating it, which left them disorganized and scrambling to cover for one another. This is where a player like Estevao became the perfect weapon. His one-on-one ability against an exposed defender gave Chelsea a reliable and dangerous outlet every time they won the ball. His capacity to dribble at defenders, drop his shoulder, and create chances was a persistent threat.
They really wanted to do, because you get on the ball and dribble at them and take them on. Who is one of the players that really informed in doing that is Estevao. He gets at you, dribbles, drops the shoulder, takes people on, and I think that was one of the key things what Chelsea was really good at.
One commentator noted that Estevao is special and has everything you want from a wide player. The intelligence of his movement shows that these runs were clearly drilled in preparation for this specific match. As another analyst pointed out, Maresca really prepped really well for this game, and I think he saw the mistakes that he could see where he could really hurt them. It was a total team execution, where, as one observer put it, everyone stuck to the game plan. Maresca's strategy wasn't a stroke of inspiration during the game. No, it was a well-researched tactical execution. He identified Barcelona's single biggest defensive weakness and built his entire system around exploiting it relentlessly. The 3-0 scoreline was the direct consequence of a precise plan that Barcelona had absolutely no answer for. Many pointed to Ronald Araujo's red card as the sole reason for the loss, but the problems for Barcelona started long before they went down to 10 men.
This is who Barca are with 11 men. Don't kid yourself. This game was not about the red card. This was about Chelsea being the better side and all the problems that Barca have had this season, defensively in particular, coming home to roost.
In the minutes leading up to the sending off, they were already struggling badly. Chelsea's intensity was at a level they rarely face in La Liga, and key players like Frenkie de Jong simply couldn't get a foothold in the game because the pace was too fast.
They didn't dominate the game. The midfield players, Frenkie de Jong usually controls the pace of the game. He couldn't do that. Of course, there's no Pedri in the side.
Barcelona looked fragile every single time Chelsea broke forward and were creating almost no clear chances of their own. The team was being outplayed even at full strength, showing that the foundational issues were already present. Then, the red card happened, and what followed was a complete organisational breakdown. Any semblance of defensive discipline evaporated. For Chelsea's third goal, the Barcelona defenders allowed a simple pass from Enzo Fernandez to be played right through the middle of them.
Beautifully worked through. Here's Liam Delap to settle it.
The recovery runs were non-existent, and it became far too easy for Chelsea to find the back of the net. This wasn't just a numerical disadvantage, it was a total failure to adapt to the new reality of the game. There was no clear shift in formation or strategy to try and manage the situation. Instead of becoming more compact and difficult to break down, they simply continued with their broken system.
I was expecting Hansi Flick to kind of change things around when the red card was given, and we'll get to the red card in a minute because I have some things to say about that. But he kept on going on with that high line, he kept on going on with that offside trap.
This, in action, brings the focus directly onto Hansi Flick. The existing flaws were hugely magnified after the red card. The space that Chelsea's attackers had to run into effectively doubled, and Barcelona's disconnected press became even easier for their opponents to bypass. Critics have argued that Flick's philosophy is far too rigid, a high-risk system that has no plan B for when things go wrong.
Things can change, I get that, but I don't see Hansi Flick changing. I don't see this team picking up new habits. They're definitely not going to buy anyone in January that could help them do that.
His approach relies entirely on the initial press working, and when it fails, or when the team is put under pressure, there seems to be no alternative solution. The debate now swirls around whether the philosophy itself is flawed for elite football, or if this particular group of players is just unable to execute it.
And they are a fun watch at their absolute best, but this team is just way too volatile, and I think they are a complete and accurate representation of their manager, who at the moment looks like he's lost it a little bit. I'm not gonna lie, I think he's lost the plot a little. Some of the decisions that Hansi Flick is making are absolutely bewildering to me, man. And again, I keep saying it, right? We know how he wants to play, and I'm not trying to vilify the way he wants to play. For a neutral, it's a fantastic watch. It's a fascinating watch.
This inflexibility was highlighted before the match even started. After the international break, Flick had told the media, "Don't worry everybody, if we play how we played against Celta de Vigo in Vigo, we'll be okay." This statement prompted one commentator to ask, is he bonkers? Because in that Celta Vigo match, Barcelona were terrible for 45 minutes. That performance was seen as embarrassing, yet Flick referenced it as a positive standard.
But I'm positive. I'm positive about how we also play in the second half, how we defend together. We learned from this match. and we have to accept this defeat.
This reveals a potential disconnect between the manager's assessment and the team's actual performance on the pitch, bringing his tactical judgment into question. The red card didn't cause the collapse, it simply revealed an uncomfortable truth. Barcelona's problems are systemic.
Playing with this high line business will kill Barcelona time and time again. They just won't learn. But what do the players, can you really blame the players? No, they're just being told, they're just doing what they're being told. It's Hansi Flick who has to realize, listen, it's not always going to work, and unfortunately, yes, you are not going to win the Champions League playing with this high line.
Their complete inability to adjust their tactics mid-game showed that the issues went far beyond one player's mistake. It pointed to a brittle philosophy that shatters when put under significant pressure. This moves the conversation away from a single bad result and toward a fundamental crisis in Hansi Flick's entire approach to managing the team. The 3-0 loss was a diagnosis. The defensive identity that earned Barcelona a title is gone, replaced by a rigid, high-risk system that Chelsea completely exposed. The immediate future for the club now looks precarious. The long-term project is under scrutiny because, without tactical changes, the same weaknesses can be exploited again. All the pressure now falls on the manager. The central question is whether Hansi Flick can rebalance his team and add the discipline needed to compete at this level, or if his entire project is simply set up for another inevitable collapse.